4.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
What now?
Do you know what we're here for? Thanks, Jeff, for the question. The equal parts. Oh my gosh.
I don't want reality.
This is from 12 Rules for Life. Aren't I a good guy?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed! I see that you know your judo. Come on!
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Consequences.
It's a great day for being sad.
Phrasing.
How rude.
What now?
Your name, please. Miss Morelli.
Follow the rich way. China. Have to have my China.
Facebook, look. I did everything right and they indicted me.
Close it up, just like my wife's vagina.
Science.
Illegal.
Cacao.
I made a huge, tiny mistake.
Well, here we are again. Good to see you, Space Fams. We got a hell of a lot to look at here tonight. So I suppose we better get right to it. So buckle up. We have a little bit of a trip to take through the unknown. Alright. Well, good to see those of you who have already shown up. Selena Marie, Noah, Mrs. Jen, 123 in chat, BB, Robot Cat, Iota, Afroponics, Moon Interplanet Janet, Soul Life. Soul Life is wait, my god. Bob Carmody, Jerry McLean, Nadia, Beth Chambers, Tony Tunes, Omega Star. And if I missed you, I'm very sorry. Oh, Mr. Spock and the Anti-Corporus, I see you. I see you. Ooh, Princess blowing up within the second. I believe Omega got it first. Well done to both of you. Here's a round of applause for yourselves. Ah, God. Where do we start today? Oh, I know. Let's start in the same place as usual. In the United States. Where? As it turns out, we're still shooting each other. Shocking.
Right of the Second Amendment.
I wonder if anybody can guess where we're gonna start today. A topic so difficult to figure it out. Since it's Sunday Funday, though, I figured we'd start with something perhaps a little bit fun, if you will. Okay, we're not gonna stay on that for too long. Key and Peele did a bit about they did do a bit about Neil deGrasse Tyson, and spoiler alert, it was hilarious. Okay. Speaking of the Second Amendment, let's look at this from Fox News from a day ago. I wonder if anybody is familiar with this bit of news.
And that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's sad, take a look at what happened.
Alright, that's good enough. I think we've all seen this footage in particular plenty at this point, so we are going to move on and kind of deep dive a bunch of stuff relating to this particular incident. Hold on though. 23 likes, my god. Better do something about that before we get too carried away here. That's 15. And a 12. 15 and a 12. Alright. They shot him again today? No. No, very funny. Very funny. Alright, this is... If you're not aware, Donald Trump is fine. This is him getting off of his plane in New Jersey directly after this apparent
I want to go to New Jersey
attempt.
because we also have video of former President Trump, who flew into Newark earlier today. Then his motorcade picked him up there and took him to Bedminster. And joining us now on the phone is our executive reporter, investigative reporter John Santucci, who's been following along. And John, we're getting more response now from Trump's family and the Trump campaign, and a video that they're sending out.
Yeah, this is a video that one of the aides that was traveling with Donald Trump back from New Jersey just posted. I know our control room is working to turn that around very quickly, so we'll bring that to our viewers as soon as we can. But again, I think this is all just remarkable. You know, as we've been reporting for the last several hours, as you've been leading our coverage with.
These are the very first images that we're seeing of the former president walking down the steps off that plane since the shooting, the assassination attempt. John, sorry again to interrupt. I just wanted to point out what the viewers were seeing. But again, you have been in touch with...
I know he just got shot, but he seems very low energy, if you were to ask me. That's a guy who's too tired to even walk down the stairs properly.
Trump family throughout the course of the day.
Yeah, and with that image, I can tell you something that, you know, at the end of the day, look, Donald Trump, we all know, right, is larger than life, if you will. But for his children, he is dad. And, you know, I can tell you that none of the children were with.
All right. So, yeah, Trump is fine, in case somebody in this chat was concerned and was somehow unaware of any of this. There you go. Now we're going to get into the actual details around all of this. Figured we'd just get those two things quickly out of the way. Dad. No, Bob. Oh, God. What are we doing next? Okay. Let's look at this. As there's multiple instances of footage here showing the moment in which the gunman opened fire at Donald Trump. Let's go to BBC here first. This is from 12 hours ago.
Well, Donald Trump has survived an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania. Before we start this full hour with reports and analysis, let's first show you that moment Donald Trump was shot.
Take a look at what happened.
It's obvious. It's obvious, BBC.
The FBI says the gunman spent the night at his private golf club. This image, obtained by the entertainment news outlet TMZ, shows the exact moment the shooter, who was lying on his stomach, lines up his shot from the roof. Clearly questions about how he was able to do that without being stopped. The gunman was shot dead moments after this. What you're hearing is some of the reaction from the clearly very distressed crowd after he was killed and the panic which ensued. Well, speaking at the news conference, the FBI Special Agent Kevin Rojek gave this update.
This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump. It's still an active crime scene. As I mentioned, we have a number of agents on scene. We also are working closely with other federal agencies, our state partners, and our local police partners as well. We do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was.
Well, speaking at the same press conference, Pennsylvania State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens gave this update.
So let me describe for you a little bit about the scene that we have over there. As you know, there was a grandstand, a very large area, a lot of people there when this all unfolded. The former president had come out and begun to speak shortly after 6 o'clock this evening.
the people behind Trump didn't seem stressed. They seemed like idiots. I'm just going to point this out. I think those two things aren't mutually exclusive. You can be both stressed and an idiot simultaneously. There's nothing stopping you. It's a free country.
Within about 10 to 15 minutes, a number of sounds were heard, and it became apparent that shots were being fired in that direction.
But they did seem pretty stupid, not going to lie. Although the context of the situation does sort of lend itself to that. Look at the one guy to the right of Trump. Okay, well, I will do that. I'm sure we'll see that photo at least one more time during this deep dive here. Let's go on to this. Let's talk about who this guy is. Apparently his name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. This is ABC News Australia from 5. I don't know why ABC News Australia did this and regular ABC didn't do it, but here we go. What do we know about who Thomas Matthew Crooks was?
And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit... He's going down!
Oh, I forgot about this footage. We're not going to watch this because mostly it just gives me motion sickness. Okay. Well, let's go to the next one. There we go.
Michael, how much do we know about Thomas Matthew Crooks at this stage and his background?
Not much, and that's the important thing, and we heard from Joe Biden on this front as well. He's saying it's far too early to ascribe a motive to the shooter. We do know he left school only 2 years ago. He was only 20 years old. There have been reports today across multiple US media outlets from his former classmates saying he was a loner at school, he was heavily bullied at school, he'd often turn up dressed up in hunting gear and was mocked because of that. We do know that he was a registered Republican. There are reports that he donated an albeit very small amount of money to a progressive political group a couple of years ago. But beyond that, not much at all, and that is the subject of furious investigations as we go to air.
Michael, what about Trump's reaction to this? I mean, after he was shot in the ear, there was that moment he had ducked quickly, but then very quickly got up and said to the Secret Service detail, wait. That will become a...
Okay, so that's about all of the information that ABC actually has on the shooter. If I recall, the rest of this discussion is mostly them just kind of rehashing all the rest of the events, but... yeah, so we can at least remember those two things. That he... well, three things. His name, the fact that he registered as a Republican when he turned 18, and that what was it? I think it was 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, he donated once $15 to, I think it was the Vote Blue PAC, something like that. One Democratic affiliated political action committee. $15 whole. So yeah, the actual motive is not yet clear in terms of perhaps a political reasoning, but it would seem that at least the reason for this had something to do with him wanting to kill Donald Trump. That would be what would seem to be the obvious motive. Oh, because he donated $15. That means he's Antifa. Yep. And that's exactly the way that works.
It's science.
Antifa love Democrats. So 1 and 1 makes 2. Write that down. Ay. It was Act Blue, $15 when he was 17. So after he donated, he became a Republican. Interesting. Thank you, Sasha. I've been trying to nail down the exact details of that. I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate either, because I've heard multiple different timelines on that. But if that is the correct timeline, there would seem to paint a different narrative than some of the ones that I've seen. Okay, let's keep talking about this. Here is Guardian news report from 2 hours ago, sorry. This shows the graduation ceremony where this individual,
Thomas Crooks.
Yeah, footage of a 2022 graduation ceremony showing Thomas Matthew Crooks. Crooks is seen with glasses and a black graduation gown and posing with a school official. Crooks has been identified by the FBI as a suspect in what it calls
if you want to really see something to say
on Donald Trump. See, look, we have this again. All right, now which guy are you talking about? This child wearing the Donald Trump wig and the America Great Again hat? He looks like an idiot. I mean, can we blame children for these sorts of things? No, I'm sure that's not who you're talking about, but I'm just fucking with you. You have neighbors already in conspiracy theory mode. You'd prefer conspiracy over actual real life direct connection to the left? I mean, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying about this. I think the facts are that regardless of who this individual winds up being, those conspiracy theories will be getting, circulated among the sort of QAnon types in the and beyond that, right? Like the MAGA crowd in general. And I think we can expect those theories to be directly tied to leftists, Democrats, Joe Biden himself. Trying to think of who else. But yeah, hopefully we will be able to easily refute any of those sorts of things. But the fact is, we don't have much information on this guy yet. I saw one other video showing other photos of this guy, which I'm not even going to put in front of you right now because I don't have any ability to give it any legitimacy as to whether it's accurate or not. In terms of sources, although it certainly did look kind of legit, but it comes from a very place that I would deem as me having skepticisms of. Anyway, so let's go on. We may have to look at that tomorrow, depending on what direction this all goes in. But I guess let's look at this next. CBS News 5 hours ago. Municipal officer encountered Trump rally shooter before assassination attempt.
Hello, everyone. I am Lana Zach. We also continue to follow that assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at his rally last night in Pennsylvania. The former president is recovering. He is said to be doing well. We're also learning new details on the man who died, Corey Competor, and the two victims still in critical condition. Competor was described as a girl dad, a firefighter, and the best among us. His wife said that he jumped on top of his family when the shots fired, protecting them. Pennsylvania police have also identified those two rally-goers who were critically injured. The 57-year-old David Dutch and 74-year-old James Copenhaver, they're both currently listed in stable condition. And President Biden offered his prayers for those victims. He said he spoke with the former president, and in this moment, he called on the nation to come together.
As I said, Jesus Christ, Bob. I can't even focus after reading that comment. Good God. Oh God, I'm not even gonna repeat it, but oh man, I'm broken inside. Oh, okay, I'm gonna try and focus back in.
Phrasing. Last night, there's no place in America for this kind of violence or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen.
Hold on. This is not the part that I wanted to go to. I'm just too distracted by things right now. Hold on. Let me get us to where we need to be don't need to listen to this piece of this right now. Where is it? I'm trying to remember. CNN has so much money, but you can't label shit properly. There. Right here. Go. No. Go web go. What just happened? Don't do that. That is rude, sir.
How rude.
There we go. That.
Shooter acted alone. There are currently no public safety concerns at this time, so folks can rest a little easier. They have not identified yet an ideology associated with the gunman here. There are also no known mental health concerns regarding the gunman, although this is an active investigation. All of the evidence is being sent to Quantico, where it will be evaluated in an FBI laboratory. Among that evidence is Crooks's phone that he was using. Now, investigators have not been able to get into the phone. They have seen some text messages, nothing of concern yet. Within that car, we spoke about those explosive materials that were found earlier today, Lana. We're told that those explosives were rendered safe. They were also sent to Quantico. That device was described as rudimentary by law enforcement officials. The FBI has received over 2,000 tips so far, roughly 2,600. They're looking for more information from the public. And they also note that the threat environment has changed since this incident. Rhetoric is heated regarding the shooting itself. Multiple people mimicking the shooter on social media platforms and online.
A time for calm, a time to bring down the temperature. Nicole, we also learned that we learned more details about that shooter outside of the security perimeter, shimmied up to the top of that structure. And there were some people who saw him, flagged it for security, and we've learned a little bit more about the moments just before the shooting.
Yes, we know this was on law enforcement's radar, that just moments before the president spoke, as rally goers were entering into the rally area, that they had identified a suspicious person to police there. We're also learning this from KDKA, our affiliate. At some point, there was an official from Butler County Sheriff's Office, an officer that was hoisted by another officer on the roof of that shed, where we saw those images of where the gunman had positioned himself. The shooter focused his rifle towards the officer, who at that point let go of his position on the roof. The shooter then began firing into the crowd.
So yeah, that's definitely a new detail. The fact that a sheriff from Butler County actually encountered the shooter on the roof, but jumped off the roof when the shooter pointed a gun at them. And so, yeah, would seem that the shooter then took that opportunity to just start firing. BCAT K blocked you. God damn it, Soul Life. Stop gaslighting people about BCAT being in here. No, my dogs. Not blocked. Not blocked. Just a figment of Soul Life's imagination, actually. Let's move on to this. This was an interview from about 9 hours ago, NBC News, where they talked to one of the former classmates of the shooter.
As we've been here, there's a large media presence here. You've had members of the community come and approach us, including one person who said he actually went to high school with this suspected shooter. I want you to listen to a little bit of our conversation there.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but You never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much. So much.
And this was high school?
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
That's what he was saying. He said that he was actually in the class before, behind the suspected shooter here, and we have some movement here where you hear an ambulance or a car horn. Excuse that background noise. But one thing that we also heard from that conversation is that when we asked what he was bullied for, what this shooter was bullied for, he pointed to his clothing. Apparently, according to this person who says he was a classmate, the shooter would wear military-style clothes or hunting clothes regularly as he was at school. So we're still learning a lot more. We can tell you investigators continue to go.
The favorite outfit of leftists. Hunting clothes.
Get rid of the Second Amendment?
That's all I wear. That's all I wear. Camo boxers, socks, everything. You should see me out there. Sticking out like a goddamn sore thumb. Floating through space. There's no plans to blend in with up here. But I refuse not to wear anything aside from camo. The only kind of clothing I will buy. Space camo. Alright, sorry. But no, I mean, this kid was unfortunately bullied. What sounds like his entire life. And I'm sure that Republicans will be coming out against bullying anytime now. But yeah. We can't say for sure that any of that was the cause of this, but yeah. Certainly another piece to this puzzle. Pants are tyranny. So true. So true.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
Isn't space camo just black? Kind of. Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. Alright. This is kind of like the last piece of information. And it's barely information, but I am wearing all black right now, actually, as it turns out. Yeah, so this is the last sort of piece of information that we have on the shooter himself to talk about. We're not done talking about the situation. This is going to take up, like, most of the first half, not going to lie. But let's go to this from the AP. Yeah, Pennsylvania resident in total shock that Trump rally shooter lived less than a mile away.
I mean, total shock. It was, like I said, we've been here a little over 10 years, going on 11 years, and haven't had any incidents of any crime, really, that I can remember. And so the fact that, you know, the guy was less than a mile away, a street away from where you live, is kind of crazy. Unfortunately, I feel like this is going to continue to happen. Not necessarily the assassination attempt, but just the political discourse between the two parties, I feel like is going to...
Well, thank God we have this random dude walking down the street to tell us things that we probably didn't need to hear, but hey, that's it for trying to figure out anything about this shooter for today. But let's get into some of how this happened. Actually, I take it back. There is one other thing. Put it in the wrong spot, though. So that's my fault. Let's go to this. because this is from 8 hours ago, where the Trump rally shooter's home was searched by investigators. Let's go to CBS here. There we go. Oh shit, we have 30 likes. Hold on.
Investigators searched the Pennsylvania home.
We know, but hold. Please hold. This is taking precedence over that. 5. Who is 5? That's Morty. We've gotten Morty like 2 days in a row. It seems like something in space. Like 1 week it'll be this character, the next week it'll be that character. I don't know what's up with my dice. They seem to have a mind of their own.
The shooter today. It's about an hour south of where former President Trump's rally took place. And CBS News correspondent Charlie DeMar is at that scene in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, just outside of the suspect's home. Charlie, describe for us the area around you right now. What have you seen?
Well, this is a quiet suburb, and this is about as close as we can get to that shooter's home. Police have obviously zeroed in on this home. It is a very active investigation. We've not seen neighbors going in and out. Cars haven't been going in and out. And some activity did happen.
Oh, shit, dude. Bob is full of it today. That one is fucking hilarious, too. After the cameras turned off, that guy was mugged. Like right after he got done saying there's no crime, I've never seen crime. Oh my god, you are just on fire today.
Suburb, and this is about as close as we can get to that shooter's home. Police have obviously zeroed in on this home. It is a very active investigation. We've not seen neighbors going in and out. Cars haven't been going in and out. And some activity did happen within about the last hour or so. We did see a county bomb squad vehicle going in, which coincides with reporting from CBS News sources telling us that explosive devices were found in that shooter's car. So again, that's why we have heard reports of neighbors being evacuated from their homes out of an abundance of caution. But this is still very much an active crime scene. Investigators are trying to build a profile on why this happened, a potential motive. So you can bet they're talking to his family, they're talking to neighbors to really try and develop a full picture of how we got to that attempted assassination yesterday.
And Charlie, as they're building out that profile, tell us more what we're learning about the suspect. And I believe you actually spoke with someone who knew the shooter?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak to a former classmate of the shooter. He says he didn't know him well. They weren't close friends, but he did describe him as a bit of an outcast, that he would sit alone at lunch.
Right, okay, yeah, he's the one who interviewed that kid we'd listened to earlier. So yeah, that is the last bit of information I think that we have about this shooter for now. But it would seem that they are doing a very extensive investigation into him and to his potential motives behind this attack. Now, let's watch CBS ask the question, how'd the shooter get so close to Trump? Well, let's find out.
In the aftermath of yesterday's shooting, there are questions about how someone was able to get close enough to perpetrate this attack. I want to bring in former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Eric Miller. Eric, this suspect was within 400 feet of the podium, able to fire a weapon that grazed the president's ear and was fatal for another, critically injuring 2 more. How is all of that possible given the strict Secret Service protection that was there?
It was the only other rooftop in the area. How are they not scoping that out? It is a fair question to ask. I don't know. In my opinion, it seems like quite an oversight. But maybe they were feeling their, what do you call it? Proverbial stones, if you will, and thought, we're good. We'll just let it ride. It'll be fine. NBD. I don't know. I'm not in the minds of the people who were in charge of this.
Well,
you know, I'm no Secret Service agent myself. I mean, I know limited things about the Secret Service and what they do and what their supposed jobs entail. Supposedly this is one of them.
Since the security perimeter was set up at the time in relation to where former President Trump was located is one of the potential security gaps that the Secret Service, as well as the other state and local law.
The fact is I kind of just, I mean, you may have different views in chat, but I kind of hate the Secret Service, not gonna lie. I have strong feelings about some of the stuff we've seen them do just in the last, whatever, like 6 months. Like, I'm trying to remember, where was it at? Where was it at? Oh, God, I can't remember what venue this was at, but there was some sort of, there was like some sort of conference being held that we were watching. A number of people came out and were protesting in the audience to get a ceasefire in Palestine. To get the government to stop funding Israel and what it's doing there, and I think we watched some Secret Service agents literally body slam some, like, you know, near elderly people and things like that. You know, so you know, I got a lot of criticisms for them aside from their supposed presidential protection duties. You know, but that's just me.
Agencies that were involved in yesterday's event will be looking at as a part of their after action, which is also known as a hot wash. That's conducted during and after any incident, any event, but this is certainly one of the biggest issues that they'll be examining.
And Eric, you know, this is being described as a security failure for obvious reasons.
Oh God, Solef is adding random number generators to chat. Here we go.
How do you expect the Secret Service or other law enforcement officials to try and change protocols as a result of this?
Well, those gaps that will be identified in the days to come during the internal investigations will certainly inform the security planning for future events. They will inform the future planning for the RNC event, which starts tomorrow, as well as the DNC events and any other national security.
Okay, so yeah, the answer for now is no answer. How he got so close. And yeah, 150 yards is not a very difficult shot to make, especially depending on what kind of weapon you have. And I'm assuming it wasn't just a 22 LR or something like that. It was probably a higher caliber weapon than that. What? Cisco is 81? Bullshit. Cisco is not a emotional support character, okay? He is too good for being an emotional support character. He's denied. I've asked Cisco, as he is the bartender at the Galactic bar by the Galactic pool, and no, he wants to just hang out, drinking poolside with all the peeps added to those scenes by our patrons. That's the high life. He's living the high. He doesn't want to be working over here with all this difficult shit. All right, let's go on. Talk. Let's talk a little bit about the Republican reaction to all of this. As there's definitely been quite a few reactions to this. Although first, let's go to this first, actually. CNN 9 hours ago. Assassination attempt injures Trump. Royals race. Watch key moments from CNN's coverage. All right, let's do it. Key moments. Wow, that sounds both riveting and exciting.
And we're learning more about
compelling and rich. Jake Dapper.
We begin this morning with our breaking news. Former President Donald Trump is safe, and a 20-year-old shooter is dead after a shocking assassination attempt on the former president in Pennsylvania yesterday afternoon. Former President Trump described the attack in his own words, revealing that a bullet had ripped through the upper right part of his ear, saying, quote, "I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place," unquote. This morning, former President Trump added, quote, "It was God alone who prevented the unthinkable."
Wow. Nightbot hates Sasha? That is incredibly rude.
From happening. He added, "It is more important than ever that we stand united." This was the closest call on a president or former president's safety since President Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981. Authorities say they have identified the gunman as Thomas Michael Crooks, a 20-year-old man who lived in nearby Bethel Park, north of Pittsburgh in western Pennsylvania. Crooks was killed by U.S. Secret Service.
There's no way we need to hear all of this again. We've literally heard all of this shit. Oh my god, I forgot this is a 25-minute video. That's why. What part did I actually want to listen to? It was this. Because this is the way we're segueing. I forgot. This is the way we're segueing to listening to right-wingers talk. By the way, CNN, guess who they got on? They got what's his name? Fetterman? They got John Fetterman on to talk about this. And they got Ron Johnson, Republican senator. CNN, so fair and balanced.
Failure.
Yeah, it was a failure. There will absolutely have to be congressional oversight hearings. I mean, I think first you let the investigation proceed, conclude, and then the Department of Justice, Secret Service, FBI need to be completely transparent. I mean, completely transparent. They haven't been so in the past, so that we can take a look at that and so the American people can have comfort that this has been fully investigated and we know exactly what happened here.
We've learned that the shooter was 20 years old. He's from western Pennsylvania. His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was a registered Republican. He gave $15 to a Democratic-aligned group. Other than that, we don't know much more about him, those of us in the public. Do you know anything more?
No, but you know, one thing I do know, and this was one of my first reactions, you know, when it happened so fast, you know, I turned on the TV, the incident was over, you could see that President Trump was okay, we didn't know about the deceased person at the time.
Ron Johnson is on the top 10 list of least liked senators. That's on my top 10 list of least shocking facts.
But my first thought was, President Trump knew exactly the risks he was taking running for re-election. He knew he'd be vilified. He probably didn't understand the full extent of lawfare. He realized his life would be at risk. But he did it anyway, and you know why, Jake? Because President Trump loves this country. And that's the other thing I would say about his supporters, those rally-goers. That's, if there's one attribute that Trump supporters have in common, they fervently love this country. And so if the rest of America can understand that about Donald Trump, about the people who support Donald Trump, I think they love this country as well. There's a good place to start the healing and unification of this country. We need to understand that about each other.
You were already concerned about the security situation.
Okay, this is enough. We've heard enough from Ron Johnson. In fact, I would argue we've heard too much already. Oh, God. All right. What next? Where do we go? These are the questions that I have for myself. Oh, yes. Good. Yes, let's do this. Let's, in earnest, start looking at some of the, well, I suppose you would call it the voter reaction to this shooting, specifically the Republican voting bloc, certain California. Where in this California swing district, voters react to Trump rally shooting. Associated Press from 21 hours ago.
Donald Trump really said it. He'll be a dictator for a day if reelected.
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
Trump made the extraordinary vow at a town hall in Iowa, moderated.
What just happened? Hold on. I gotta go back. Something just went off in the background. Listen to these very normal ladies.
A friend of mine actually texted me and said, Trump shot at rally. And I was like, no! Is he okay? That was the first thing that I wanted
This lady's got serious real estate agent vibes.
to know. I don't care who it is. Like, even if it had been Biden or Obama, or, you know, regardless of my politics leaning towards Trump, nobody. No political figure should have to worry about their life being in danger.
I'm from Newport Beach, California, and this is Trump country. And all I know is that for sure he's going to win now. This ain't going to take him down. I mean, I'm shocked that the boats aren't out having a Trump parade.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. You know what? I think we're going to be seeing a boat parade at some point. These fucking people. Oh, good God.
It's horrific. I can't get any more worse, and it is 100% war against the American people.
I was stunned.
I think we all saw how well the last boat parade went off, so I honestly support this second boat parade.
I thought it was a prank, actually, when I first saw it. I saw it on Instagram. I was shocked that it would happen like it has happened in the past with other presidents. You know, I thought by now, you know, that our security would be way more secure than what I...
Yeah, this guy's right. Why isn't our security more secure? Well, I might have a response for that later. Not gonna get to that yet. Right now we're just taking in the Republican voter reaction here. Oh God. Our situation. Let's listen to this young lad tell us about his patriotism in Arizona as he decided he needed to go and do something.
We immediately just sat in awe, and we decided, you know what, let's just go get some flags and go to the Capitol. Just, you know, the flag hasn't been lowered yet, but if we can raise our flag and do a bit of good as citizens, as there's been so much stress in our country.
Oh my God. He is taking this shit so he's the epitome of this sort of kid who's grown up in this particular environment where he's taking it all upon himself, right? He's been told this is your country, and if you don't want it taken away, you need to go out there with the fucking flag. I see you, many doctors. Thanks for throwing my emojis in chat. Yeah, this guy here with the flag and the flag-colored Texas Longhorns hat. He's decided the only way to stand up to this atrocity, which we've just seen earlier today, is to go out wearing all of his favorite gear, flying his flag, and walking around the Capitol yelling and talking to reporters.
We just need to do something together as Americans.
Together?
There's nothing more
Who else is out here with you?
and symbolic.
It's just you, pal.
Our unity in our flag. I mean, we just came off of 4th of July weekend where we're all partying it up and doing fun things.
Yeah,
and
is that what we did?
What does it really mean to hold the flag? And this is why we're here. This is why we're a country. This is why even through hard times, tough times, we'll get through it, and we have to raise our own flags.
And there was that.
Okay. All right, let's move on from this Individuals clearly still trying to figure things out in life. What statue is that? Good question. What statue is outside of the Arizona State House? I don't know. I couldn't actually answer that question. All I can see is the bottom half, which really makes it tough. Not gonna lie. And I can't make out anything. I suppose we could do a deep dive on that, but I don't feel like that would be a great use of our time. Let's go on to this. Oops, I clicked it the wrong way. Go back. Is it Nathan Bedford Forrest? Oh my god. Is it really? Oh, Arizona. It's not 1860. Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on. Alright, let's go to New York here, where all the worst New Yorkers came out to support Donald Trump in the streets outside of Trump Tower. Play. Okay, that's good. Thank you. I'm just going to say this. We need better laws around what sort of vehicles are allowed on streets. Because this right here, this shouldn't be a thing. What the fuck is this? Train horn on a fucking GMC pickup? Fuck off. Good God. This is a way of life for these people. Everything must be covered in flags. It's like, honestly, I wish I had something that low stakes to be obsessed with. Like, just, you know, how do I get as many flags on myself, on my body, and everything that I own? Seems like a very easy way to live. You know, you don't have to really question anything or have any sort of critical thinking. You see a flag, you buy it. That's your #1 goal in life. Ah, good God. It's interesting how muted and pathetic the response is. It is pathetic. Now, let's see the Wisconsin GOP chairman talking about the Trump assassination attempt in which he appears to struggle with, Wait, did this get taken down? What's happening? Did this get taken down? How dare you? Oh, no, didn't. Here we go. Wait, yes it did. Why? Why do you people hate me? This was gonna be funny. Because the dude's like practically crying on camera over Donald Trump's attempted assassination. Alright, let's go here to the beautiful, is this Miami Beach? No, sorry. California, Huntington Beach, California. Very similar vibes in Huntington Beach in Miami. Alright, let's go here. I'm gonna turn the volume down. It's just blasting my ears with these idiots. So yeah, this goes on for quite a while. Like a full hour of these people just standing here. This lady's got a fancy Trump picture sign. Wait, why have you paused? What's happening here? Why are you being a dick to me? So yeah, this is the general vibes since the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a huge response, but there certainly is some kind of response coming out from Trump supporters about all of this. And will it be what's the word? Will it be mobilizing? I think that's the important question for us to ask. I am not yet able to say one way or the other. I think it all depends on exactly how Trump plays it, I think, to some degree. And he basically hasn't said anything since this happened. Are you just listing the signs that they have out there? Yeah. It's all the expected ones. The Don't Tread on Me, Blue Lives Matter flags, all of the, you know, the Fuck Joe Biden, the Let's Go Brandons. It's all part of the MAGA economy, if you will. Oh, wait. What? I thought I had these in a different order. Here's the Wisconsin GOP chairman choking up about talking about Donald Trump. I found it.
As I saw the images, as everyone has across the country, of what happened yesterday, I'm literally beyond words at what has happened there. And I want everyone to think about those families. I have spoken to Chairman Wadley in the last hour, and everything for the convention is going on as planned. There are no major changes whatsoever at this point to the schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sad for the, for the people that were hurt, the person that was killed, and their families. But you're not going to see me crying over this. People get shot in America every day. Somebody smarter than you pointed out the hypocrisy of the Gadsden flag and the thin blue line put together. Oh, that's definitely. But pointing out hypocrisy means nothing to the MAGA base. They embrace the hypocrisy. They will ignore it. They will deny it, even if it's literally just like pressed up against their eyes, essentially. Like they would continue to ignore any sort of hypocrisy committed by either Donald Trump or his allies. We've seen too much evidence of that up to this point. I think one channel alone has done it, but multiple people have managed it. I mean, with just the good liars alone, that one channel will tell you all you need to know about how much hypocrisy, or how much Republicans care about hypocrisy right now. People like Walter Masterson comes to mind as well. Like it's not a place for smart people. Not gonna lie. All right, let's go to this from the Associated Press from 6 hours ago. How the Trump assassination attempt compares to the attempt on Ronald Reagan's life in '81. I just realized the volume's very low on this. Why is it so low?
The parallels between this and what happened to Reagan to me are front and center to me. Both men are shot at, and apparently Trump was wounded. Reagan was definitely wounded. People will rally around you when that happens. Reagan was a very spiritual, religious person. And he believed in forgiveness, and he started praying for Hinckley. And it's in his diary that he did that. He also believed he had been spared for a purpose. And that purpose was to help reduce the threat of nuclear war, which helped guide his entire presidency. What the assassination attempt did for Reagan, too, was that it built a bond with the American people. You know, Reagan would lose more than half, 70 years old, by the way, and he'd lose more than half his blood volume because he'd been hit. He was in shock at the hospital. He collapsed into the arms of his agents when he walked through the doors, right? They couldn't get his pulse. They couldn't get his blood pressure. Reagan was probably a minute away from dying. When they removed the bullet finally from him, it was an inch from his heart. And so, you know, that transformed Reagan's presidency. It transformed him as a person. It transformed the world. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks about what this does for the American public's relationship with Trump, because Reagan was so affable. You know, he diffused so many situations with humor and kindness, and he was easier to.
Donald Trump
and
is
our times were not
incapable of kindness, so he might be okay. He's really not a religious guy, even though he pretends to be. Doesn't even know how to hold a Bible correctly, if I recall. But I think, once again, that kind of highlights what I was talking about before. It all depends on what Donald Trump does from here, to some degree, right? How, or if he manages to use this, right? Will he be able to? I don't know. I genuinely am not sure. But I think it does, in fact, present a situation in which he could. Oh, here we are. Okay, so we're gonna do something right now that, oh boy, I still don't know exactly how else. Oh my god, how do I even say this? Yeah, I'm gonna present a number of videos here to you, kind of encapsulating a sort of, what do you call it? I should really write things down before I do this stream, because I really am struggling to get the words to properly explain what I'm about to try and do here. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment. That's about as good as I can explain it to you at this point. We will obviously get I will hopefully be able to explain myself better after we watch at least a few of these. But yeah, let's talk about the Second Amendment. But first, let's look at this from Inside Edition from 7 months ago. Trump says he would be a dictator only on day one.
Donald Trump really said it. He'll be a dictator for a day if reelected.
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one.
Trump made the extraordinary vow at a town hall in Iowa, moderated by Fox News host Sean Hannity, who was attempting to quell fears that Trump would exact revenge on his political enemies.
You are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
A promise from Donald Trump to be a dictator.
Trump's comments are sparking outrage today.
Stunning comments about a potential second term.
Think about it. If any other politician in American history were asked the question, are you going to be a dictator? No.
Fox News brushed it off as a joke.
He was joking about those dictator comments. What he did there is brilliant. He made it into a joke.
Despite the rumors, Trump will not be attending tonight's Republican primary debate in Alabama, sponsored by...
Okay. Now let's go to this. here is the Lincoln Project from 5 months ago. God made a dictator. I think this is the first ever Lincoln Project we've ever watched on this fucking show.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed.
God made a dictator. Okay. This God fella sure does go on a bit. Yeah, very long-winded, this God. All right. Let's go to this. We all probably remember this.
I don't mean to scare you.
No,
wait. Maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean?
So yeah, I mean, we've heard multiple people, like, that's just one of, like, dozens of examples of people saying the exact same thing, right? And we all, if we here, have talked about this, right? Now, do I do this first, or do I do the next thing first? That's the question. You know, first, let's to continue this discussion. If you're wondering to yourself right now, how is this a discussion of the Second Amendment, StreamLord? Well, I'm not a big Second Amendment supporter, as you probably know.
Get rid of the Second Amendment?
So let's ask insane right-winger radio host Mark Levin what the Second Amendment is supposedly for. He loves it so much, so maybe he has a good answer.
I want to talk briefly, and I hope conservatives, liberals, everything in between, or whatever, will listen to me when I speak to this. And that is the right to bear arms. I've done in the last period of time, I guess, an enormous amount of research on this subject. Now, generally speaking, do you know why there's a Second Amendment? Does anybody know why there's a Second Amendment? Is it for hunters? Is it for target shooters? Is it even to protect yourself? Do you know why there's a Second Amendment? And the right for individuals to bear arms? I'm going to tell you why it's there. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it was to make sure that the population was armed in order to overthrow a tyrannical government. Now that's the truth. That shouldn't scare people. That shouldn't scare people at all. Because when you consider today how responsible 99.9% of gun owners are.
Really?
That 99.999% of gun owners have no intention of using their weapons to overthrow the government. Then it puts things in a bit of a better context, don't you think, Mr. Producer? That's the reason why there is a Second Amendment, and that part of the Second Amendment goes all the way back through British history, the citizens rising up against the monarchy, rising up against the Parliament and Oliver Cromwell, and on and on and on.
Okay, that's enough from Mark Levin in this terrible PowerPoint-style YouTube video, which somebody pointed out in the chat. But this is directly from the people who love the Second Amendment the very most. And if you think Mark Levin is not a good source, well, I hear what you're saying. I am no fan of Mark Levin, nor am I a fan of this organization that I'm about to also quote from. Here is the also insane right-wing organization known as the Heritage Foundation. This is from their website, heritage.org. Here is what they have to say on the Second Amendment. How does an armed people secure a free state? Securing a free state against tyranny. A well-armed citizenry acts as a major check on the ability of would-be tyrants, enabling the people to forcibly resist oppression. In the United States, our constitutional system is premised on the theory that in a truly free society, ultimate power lies with the people and not with the government, unless that government is attempting to take away the rights of women or make it a theocracy. Sorry, that was a editorial from me. But should the government forget this basic principle, the people maintain the practical power that comes with being armed for their own defense. The threat of tyranny and oppression is very real even today. In the 20th century alone, it is estimated that the government, with the monopoly on the instruments of force, slaughtered over 200 million largely unarmed and defenseless people. Well, there's the people who are essentially the biggest lovers of the Second Amendment, telling us the reasons why they think it is a thing. Heritage Foundation saying it is for stopping tyranny, and if any of us accept the premise that we have all been talking about ad nauseum, the tyrannical intent of Donald Trump and of his ilk, then, well, there seems to be some amount of, what do you call it? Connection here, right? And me personally, I say it every day.
Get rid of the Second Amendment?
We don't need it, okay? But, you know, I highly doubt that a single Republican will be saying that we don't need it even after an attempted assassination on Donald Trump, which all of us agree is a tyrant. But I don't think anybody here agrees that we should be going out and murdering political threats or opponents or anything like that. But that's what they want it for, right? That's what their expressed opinion is. So just want to make it as clear as possible what it is we're talking about right now, right? There is a long history of people being assassinated in this country by way of the Second Amendment, or at least attempted assassinations. There's, yeah, quite a few instances of that sort of thing. So yeah, you know, this is just one of those things. We talk about the Second Amendment all the time on this your channel. And today I figured we'd do a super deep dive on what it is it's supposedly here for, especially considering recent events. Okay, now let's move on. Talking about the political race. and politics in general before we move on to the other things we have going on. Geez, that really did take up almost the entire first half of the stream. Although I do feel like we have now at least really sort of picked apart this whole situation to, I think, as best as I possibly can, the information that's out there. So hopefully we can not talk about that for a little bit. Oh. Yeah. Root interplanagena is kind of making the recommended argument in this one to some degree. And yeah, I mean, to suggest that people are going to be able to avert tyrannical government, one that is more armed, not just than the rest of the world, but certainly than every American citizen. Sure, that is definitely true. Oh god, all right. This this whole political race now is completely changing very quickly. In the last few weeks, ever since the debate, I mean, it has been just it hasn't even been a few weeks yet. It's been what, like 17, 18 days? It's like 2 weeks. And holy shit, has it been an eventful 2 weeks. If you didn't hear previously, Bob Costas called for Biden's withdrawal before the debate. Let's hear what he thinks now. This is CNN from a day ago.
Some major Democratic donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC that roughly $90 million in pledged donations is now on hold if President Biden remains atop the ticket. At least 19 House members have called on him to drop out, as well as 24 former lawmakers, as House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries withholds his endorsement. As the pressure mounts, the president is scheduled to meet today virtually with multiple groups of congressional Democrats. And on at least 3 occasions since the debate, the White House has had to revise accounts of the president's medical care, and the president has refused to undergo additional testing. The New York Times was first to report that the Biden campaign is now polling to see how Kamala Harris fares against Donald Trump. It's believed to be the first time since the debate that the Biden team has sought to test her viability.
This is pretty fucking huge news. If you hadn't heard this, I don't blame you, because pretty much every single video on at least my feed personally is about the assassination attempt, right? So finding actual anything other than that in the news right now has been difficult. But here it is. This is the first, I would say, in apparent cracks in or around the campaign being, what do you call it? Made public, essentially, right? In terms of the sort of, what do you call it? Stoic, if you will, sort of, like, not ignorance is the wrong word, but the sort of, just, I guess ignorance is kind of the right word, but the intentional sort of waylaying of all of the sort of problems people have been talking about with regards to Biden by the administration and the campaign has been pretty much homogenous up to this point, right? There's been no real apparent dissenting voices within that specific camp. But this, while it might not be a dissenting voice, would seem to be something of a clear sign, if you will, that they are, in fact, themselves starting to have concerns about whether or not Joe Biden is prepared and or capable of defeating Donald Trump right now, and are now looking at other options, specifically Kamala Harris first, which makes complete sense considering she is the vice president. You're voting for the party that's not going to destroy the administrative state. I too will be doing that. But I just hope we have the right candidate for that job. Hold on. Where do they get Bob Costas over here? Here's Bob. There we go. Say, Mr.
By saying this.
This is Emperor's New Clothes stuff. If people aren't familiar with the fairy tale, the emperor was naked, no one wanted to say it, a little child was able to say it. This is common sense stuff. Of course, there are people who say, and this is the card they've been playing for a long time, yeah, we kind of know it's true, but don't say that. That will only help Donald Trump. Well, how feckless are the Democrats? If they realize that this guy could possibly lose to Trump, then get somebody else out there. You don't go into the Super Bowl with a quarterback who has a dead arm, or the 7th game of the World Series if people are more comfortable with me talking in sports terms. You don't do it. This is just so obvious.
Bob Costas, were you seeing something then that others were not seeing, or is it that you were willing to say it when others were not?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, and it only became more overwhelmingly obvious with the debate performance. And for those who say the definition of cognitive dissonance here is, oh, we're not going to toss him overboard because of one bad night, that one atrocious night was simply writ large what could be seen for years and years, that he is in serious decline. Nobody should be president when they're 85 or 86, including the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. But this guy is clearly in decline at this point. And part of the job, leaving aside whether he can do it for the next 4 years, is winning the job. And as you just laid out, that seems to be nearly impossible at this point.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually look at that data, but fact is that CNN laid it out during that whole discussion, and essentially, you know, just pulled up all of the battleground states, and in every single battleground state right now, Donald Trump is winning by somewhere between like 1.5% and 6%. Abraham Lincoln, our first ghost president. Where is the ghost of Abraham Lincoln when you need him most? All right, let's look at this. ABC News. Biden campaign changes strategy in wake of Trump rally shooting.
I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, because we have learned moments ago that President Biden will again address the nation. Mary?
David, we are told he will come before cameras again at 1:30, so in about an hour, 45 minutes from now, we expect to hear from the president. This comes after he spent the morning here at the White House in the Situation Room, being briefed by his Homeland Security team and other law enforcement officials. This will, though, be the first time that we've heard from the president since those brief remarks that he gave last night, shortly after this assassination attempt. And then, of course, the president issued a real forceful condemnation of this attack, saying that there is no place in this country for this kind of political violence. He said it is sick, and he called for the country to come together and try to unite. Of course, we know, though, that this comes at a point when this country is deeply, deeply divided. The president, though, trying to lower the political temperature. Shortly after that, late last night, the president did finally connect with Donald Trump, the two of them speaking on the phone in a call that's been described to me as good, respectful, but short. The president, first and foremost, is responding to this moment as president, but there are certainly lots of questions about how this will impact his campaign, how this will simply impact his travel in the upcoming days. We do now know that the vice president, who had an abortion event planned, a campaign event planned for Tuesday in Palm Beach County, of course, that's Donald Trump's backyard. That has now been postponed. The president is supposed to be traveling tomorrow to Texas, then on to Nevada on Tuesday and Wednesday. Lots of questions still unanswered here, David, about how his schedule may change as well and how it will impact.
So yeah, they've already canceled one event. Canceling event and starting a poll on your vice president does seem like a particular kind of vibe. The phrasing was bad. The phrasing was bad. I'll give it to you. I'll give that to you. All right, to wrap up the discussion around the political election specifically, let's look at this, as this is Biden's delivery of an Oval Office address just 3 hours ago. I'm just going to see part of this here. Hold on, I gotta get this forward. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, it's like up here. Good God.
I've said it many times. The choice in this election, we make in this election, is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, or God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face the time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become.
At what time...
This places an added burden on each of us.
Can anybody enlighten me on this? At what time were American politics filled with dignity and also grace? Somebody just give me a year or like a ballpark on that one.
To ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box.
Battle box?
You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America.
I feel like he really wanted to say "Make America Great Again" right there, and it just broke me inside a little bit.
Everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this. You know, from the beginning, our founders
Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm not a huge fan of this Oval Office address. You were in Top Chat. Oh my god. Oh my god. That is a disaster. Zuckerbuck boxes.
Zuckerbucks, Facebook, book.
Okay. Yeah, the fact is both of these guys are constantly saying things that make no sense. Oh God, why don't we have a functional third party? Anybody? Anybody, please. I just need some semblance of hope. Okay. Well, Joe Biden is the one we're supposed to count on right now to keep democracy from falling apart. Let's go to this video. Perhaps we can have some kind of a laugh amidst the sort of horrors of this speech here. Let's go to... I think everybody knows this channel in chat. Yeah. So we start around here.
Document, not a governing document. And they're worried about Christian nationalism because Americans largely are a little allergic to the idea that they have to live in a theocratic state. We don't want a Christian version of the Taliban here. But here's Josh Hawley trying to normalize the concept of Christian nationalism, literally trying to diminish the impact of the words Christian nationalist.
We are a nation forged from Augustine's vision, a nation defined by the dignity of the common man as given to us in the Christian religion, a nation held together by the homely affections articulated in the Christian faith, love for God, love for family, love for neighbor, home, and country. And I'm sure some will say now that I am calling America a Christian nation. And so I am.
Wow. Saying that should be enough to get you removed from office. I'm pretty sure. Like, and I know that there's no exact sort of legislation that says that that's the case, but if you interpret things like, what's it called? The Emoluments Clause? Fuck, I can't remember the name of the fucking specific thing, but the separation of church and state, saying something like that should in fact be disqualifying, legally speaking, of you being in office.
And some will say that I am advocating Christian nationalism.
Yeah.
And so I do. My question is there any other kind worth having?
Jesus.
The nationalism of ancient Rome led to bloodthirst and conquest. The old pagan tribalisms led to ethnic hatred. The empires of the East crushed the individual, and the blood and soil nativism of Europe in the last 2 centuries led to savagery and genocide. By contrast, Augustine's Christian nationalism has been the boast of the West. It has been our moral center, and it has supplied our most cherished ideals.
Can you pause
Just
it
think.
for a sec?
Please.
I mean, like, essentially, so he's trying to say that the genocide of Jews in the Holocaust was not, it was unique because it was not Christian, and it was was it secularly motivated? I mean, to identify it as...
The Klan was also Christian.
Yeah, the Klan was Christian.
Yeah, and I suppose like the pogroms, the late 18th and early 19th centuries, well, those weren't Christian either.
Also committed genocide against the Native American people in this country.
Oh, can't forget that.
Using oftentimes religious justifications.
Oh my God,
the
entire
yeah,
the entire justification for our taking the native land is explicitly Christian.
Literally, I mean, it's a great point. It's a great point, Sasha. Or just anything the Catholic Church ever did. Oh, God.
Jesus, I say that.
Keep going back to Cotton Mather, but literally he was using terms of modern Zionism like Amalek and
hold on.
calling.
Don't you all have a third support character? Am I losing my mind right now? You have 42 likes. Oh, 42 likes. What the fuck is going on? Hold on. Sorry, chat. We gotta stop everything. Really sorry about that. This is my fault. 2. That's a Cisco. But who was the other support character that we got today? I know we had a third one. Oh, it was Morty. It was Morty. Just forgot to put him on here. There's Cisco. Now let's get a Morty. There's a Morty. Okay. So sorry for leaving you hanging there, chat. Back to the action.
American European settlers, the daughters of Zion.
Right.
So yeah, like, and the answer is like it's not just that Christian or all of the nationalisms are bad and Christian nationalism is good. Nationalism is not good. It's a bad thing. It's one of the worst sort of forces of the last century.
Whether it be.
I wonder if you ever heard of things like, I don't know, the Spanish Inquisition or perhaps the Crusades. You know, Josh Hawley though. He's not the smartest guy. He doesn't strike me as somebody who reads a lot or anything like that. So
motivated by race, white nationalism is one of them. Whether it be motivated by religion, as we're seeing in Israel with Zionism and their genocide against the Palestinians, it's the idea of nationalism versus humanism.
And George Orwell distinguished nationalism from patriotism, whereas nationalism is an offensive sort of project. Patriotism is defensive. I don't know if that's necessarily true. That's just what Orwell thought, but I think it.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
Okay. I just figured we'd do that for a little bit of fun betwixt all of the different difficult things that we are dealing with today. I know it's Sunday Fun Day, so I am attempting fun. I know that I'm not the best at it sometimes, but I'm trying. And that, I think, is the important part of this equation. Okay, we are definitely going longer than I was planning on. Oh my god. Do I have 2 majority report videos right up against each other? That is... our 3 main weapons. And a fanatical devotion to the Pope. I don't think this has ever happened. This is unprecedented. This is genuinely unprecedented on this show. We have never watched 2 majority report videos in a row, but this one was just incredibly disturbing, and for that, I am sorry. I don't make the news.
Okay, I wanted to do this story out of West Virginia because this is absolutely insane. Here's a local news report. I guess it's a week or 2 old at this point, but the Atlanta Star, I forget the full name of that publication. It's like an online kind of magazine, wrote this up and highlighted it, and I saw a lot of people circulating it the other day. But basically, this is a couple out of West Virginia who adopted 5 black children. And this couple is being accused right now of forcing those children to work as slaves in their West Virginia barn. This is just like another indication of how our foster care and adoption system needs real overhauls, and a lot of times it's linked to extremely conservative people and religious organizations where there is just not enough care taken for these children. The report is disturbing. Here it is, local news, ABC, WHS in West Virginia.
A couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor of adopted children, including 2 teenagers who were found locked in a barn in Sissonville. Well, they're back in jail.
Now, during their arraignment this afternoon, Judge Mary Claire Akers significantly increased the bonds for Gene Weinfeather and Donald Lance. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio tonight with the reason. Anna?
Oh, God. Bob. Exodus 21. Isn't that the... I don't know my Bible verses very well, but I feel like that's the one that's about how it is a slave master supposed to treat slaves. Isn't that... Hold on. I'm going to look that up.
Dave, Gina, before setting their bonds to $500,000 cash each, Judge Akers said she has never seen an indictment quite like this, and that not only alleges the trafficked black children, adopting them from shelters and foster care, forcing them to work, but that they specifically targeted them because of their race. Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance came in on their own for their arraignments, but left in cuffs after Judge Mary Claire Akers set their bonds at $500,000, more than double what they had already paid.
So I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in all of my time. It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race.
Yeah.
And their use as basically slaves from what the indictment alleges.
How?
Along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injury.
How is this our society? And I think it's important to note that these two people, at least based upon appearances, seem to be white Americans of European descent. Usually those aren't the people that are painted as the child traffickers by the right in our country. Yeah, I think this is a good example of how they're just, you know, fear-mongering about people they dislike.
Death, I don't find the bond to be sufficient.
Whitefeather and Lance were first arrested last October when a welfare check turned into the discovery of two teens apparently locked in a shed where investigators said they lived in deplorable conditions behind the Sissonville home. One other kid was found inside the house and two others were not home, all adopted by the couple. The indictment brought more than a dozen new charges against them, alleging human trafficking and forced labor, also civil rights violations, as investigators believe they targeted these children specifically from a shelter because they were black, forcing them to work as slaves. Whitefeather and Lance were originally in Washington State, and it is alleged they brought the children with them to Sissonville when they moved.
Counts 9.
This is just horrifying. You know, we need to do different tests for what do you call it? For potential adoptive parents, right? Rather than testing their means, their economic capabilities, if you will, maybe we need to means test their fucking beliefs. Maybe we need to means test their humanity somehow, you know? Because this is fucked. This is just so wrong. Everything about this story just makes me so angry. Like, oh God. And I can almost guarantee you those QAnon people are not going to be focusing in on this one. Maybe they will. Maybe I'm totally wrong about them and I've misjudged them, but no, I don't think I have.
Through 12, allege the use of forced labor, which I read as slavery.
Bond was initially set at $200,000 cash, and they were both able to post it. Prosecutors have said in a new complaint for forfeiture, the couple sold a $725,000 80-acre ranch in Washington State and sold their Sissonville home to post bond, and they believe both of these properties were paid for through trafficking. That will be decided in a separate court matter, but because of this, prosecutors say they found discrepancies in the financial affidavit Lance filled out for a court-appointed attorney, leading to a new charge.
Okay, I've had enough of this one. Although I think we'll quickly listen to what who was it? I think it was Brandon.
Say a mother who wants to give up or the child that she's going to have for adoption. When it comes to kids that are in the foster system or in shelters and often separated from family members based on like racist practices and families that are affected sometimes by mass incarceration, then it's just like it's harder to find adoptive parents for children who are older. And so perhaps some of these organizations, particularly if you're in a red state, it's like, hey, you know, we'll give this white savior any amount of leeway to adopt these children. It's and you can just, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, the system is underfunded and overloaded, right? We have a society where reproductive health care is undertaught. And, you know, if you live in certain states, you can't even access it. Exactly. You know, abortions are illegal functionally in many states in America. And we give all money to cops. And so you hear horror stories like this, especially if you're into true crime, which, you know, I've recently been getting into a lot. You know, a lot of kids unfortunately fall through the cracks. A lot of these adoption agencies are practicing shady practices, right? And I'm sure on paper, this couple looked great. They had so much money from human trafficking.
Right.
But I think that does speak to, you know, when we think of human traffickers, though, in this country, we think of, you know, MS-13 cartels. We think of, you know, we think of Eastern European men who are kidnapping Liam Neeson's daughter, but a lot of this stuff is going on under our nose. And I would be curious too, you know, I'm just tying a lot of things that are kind of interrelated together, at least, you know, tangentially. But, you know, I think a lot of this stuff too contributes to issues with homeschooling, right? Because sending kids to school, being required to be in the school system and be tracked that way more strictly means that there are mandatory reporters. Like, no one was missing these kids. Like, why weren't they in school somewhere? Why, like, was Washington tracked?
Seriously, absolutely. It totally he's very adeptly pointed out a lot of the sort of causes for these sorts of things to be able to even happen. And it's because our society continues to either not address the problems, push them down the road, or there's already systems in place to essentially take advantage of, such as homeschooling, right? So that these kids didn't have anybody checking in on them, and weren't able to be there for these kids. It is fucking horrifying. Like, I mean, you know, being a child without, you know, without parents, it puts you in a very, what do you call it? Vulnerable position in life, right? You know, first off, kids don't have rights to do all sorts of stuff for themselves, right? And they don't know, you know, when you're a kid, you don't know what's right and wrong unless you have somebody there telling you what's right and wrong. You know, as much as some people might like to suggest that there's like some sort of like all-encompassing human belief, it's not true, right? Sociology is a thing for a reason, right? Like, the early sociological upbringing for children is incredibly important to all sorts of stuff, including to their being safe in some cases, especially like these, right? And oh my god, just whatever. I could go on about this forever. I'm just gonna stop because it's going on for so long. We're 2 hours in, for Christ's sake. All right, we got two more quick stories. First one, this is from Global News from a day ago. Canadian government buys lavish $9 million NYC condo for its consul general on Billionaires Row.
It's been revealed Ottawa splashed out on some new digs in New York recently, spending $9 million to buy a lavish condo in an area known as Billionaires Row. The extravagant apartment in the Big Apple will be the official residence for Canada's Consulate General Tom Clark. Our
Oh my god, did you see those fucking pictures? Look at it. Jesus Christ. The grand piano and everything. This is insane. Double doors inside of your apartment. Good God.
Big Apple will be the official residence for Canada's Consulate General Tom Clark. Our Mackenzie Gray has been watching this story closely for us. Mackenzie, what more do we know?
The Liberals have staked a lot of political capital talking about housing Neithu, but this kind of home isn't what they want to discuss. It's one of the most posh addresses on earth, 111th West 57th Street in New York City.
Christ.
With views of Central Park, it's located in what real estate agents call Billionaires Row.
It's a brand, right? It's like a Birkin bag. You don't even have to say where it is, you just say the number.
This guy's a tool.
And now Condo 11A in that building is owned by the Canadian government to house the Canadian Consul General in New York City. 3,600 square feet, 3 beds, 4 bath, building amenities like an indoor pool and padel court. The sale price, nearly 9 million Canadian, according to the New York Post.
Welcome back. Well, it is a whole new world, at least politically.
So yeah, while there is currently a housing crisis in Canada with, all sorts of other problems people are currently dealing with in the country, they decided that a apartment on Billionaires Row was a reasonable expense for the government to make. I would argue probably not. Maybe he should live amongst normal people, or they, depending on who the Consul General winds up being at any one particular time. But yeah, no, it just seems like a very sort of corrupt act, if you ask me. Looks like a 5-star hotel, not a home. Yep, exactly. That reminds you of the $100 million wedding happening in India? Yeah, we talked about that, like, what was that, earlier this week, Tuesday or something? I don't know. But yeah. And it was just a opulent display of wealth there in India, while people on the streets surrounding the place where they had this wedding, are living completely different lives. Oh, God. India's got a whole other set of class problems that us in the West probably don't even understand. But if you ever feel like you're lacking something to do at any time, say the Galactic stream isn't live, and you're like, God, I need something to learn right now. Well, I would recommend that you look up the caste system in India, because that is somewhat illuminating. Let's go to this. Finish out the sort of general American news with a sort of a feel-good Sunday Funday story here. ABC News from a day ago. Deli owner celebrates 12-year-old making the honor roll.
How a store owner is inspiring kids in his community to excel in school who are hungry to do better.
I told you I'd get honor roll.
Meet 12-year-old Zamir Davis from New York City.
Oh, way, you did it?
This spirited 7th grader spent the last few months proving he could make the honor roll at his middle school, telling his neighbor and deli owner, Wael Al-Sui, he was going to do it.
He came and showed me his grades the first time, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me see if he's going to keep going, and I would just want to encourage him.
Well, encouraging Zamir and other neighborhood kids to reach their potential.
I've been seeing a lot of kids get honor roll and stuff, and I was like, I want to get honor roll, but then I get merit roll, and I'm like, I don't want merit roll, I want honor roll. So I kept trying and trying.
And after months of trying, Zamir delivering on his promise.
I told you I'd get honor roll. No way, you did it? Yeah. No way, let me see.
Running back into Wael's store to give him the good news. Zamir getting a 90% average in his last semester and making the honor roll. His prize?
Okay, Zamir, go grab whatever you want. All right. I want you to make this into an Oreo milkshake.
getting whatever he wanted in the store.
Oh my
Zamir
God.
stocking up on an Oreo milkshake,
Exactly what
Doritos,
he wanted.
and
One more thing.
Okay.
A bacon, egg, and cheese.
A bacon, egg, and cheese.
Zamir's father grateful to Well
That's a true New
and
Yorker
telling his
right there.
son the sky's the limit.
I'm very proud of my son, absolutely, 100%. You know, this is the beginning. You can reach the top if he put his mind to it. Keep going harder. He's gonna be my doctor or my lawyer someday.
That's right. Bravo to
Okay, just figured we would try to end this on a positive note, at least the first half. We'll see how the second half goes, but there we go. All right. Well, I hope everybody is enjoying the show so far. If you haven't already, make sure to like and also subscribe. Really helps out. Still gotta get that subscriber number up to 500 so we can get YouTube to pay me for all of this work I'm doing. Anyway, if you've done both of those things, well, thank you. But if you're somehow saying to yourself, I want to support the Galactic News Network even more, well, here's a great idea. You could become a Galactic producer by clicking that link in chat. For just a few dollars a month on Patreon, you get access to all sorts of super sweet space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn galaxy, as well as feeling good about yourself for having helped to make this whole thing happen. Alright, chat, Galactic intermission. So, shake off those limbs, perhaps grab a drink and a snack, and I'll be right back. back. Let's get this show on the road.
A what now?
Calling all space fans. Prepare yourselves. The second half is starting right now. Let's ease into the discussion of our environment by talking a little bit about city planning. A brief history of U.S. city planning from City Beautiful. 5 years ago.
This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Visit the link in the description for 2 months off a premium subscription.
I just realized we definitely don't have Cisco on this. Oh god. Why does my stream software hate me? Anybody?
This is a brief history of city planning in the United States, but our story begins before the US existed. Prior to European settlement, cities existed in the...
This dude is loud.
known as the U.S. Pueblo culture built impressive cities, as did the Mississippian culture. Cahokia is considered one of the largest pre-European cities north of Mexico. The Spanish were the first European power to set up shop in what is now the U.S. St. Augustine, Florida was founded in 1565. As the Spanish were founding other cities in the U.S. Southwest, they also codified one of the first examples of European planning in the New World, the Law of the Indies. The law laid out requirements for locating a new city, as well as its design and layout. Cities had to have a central square, for example, like Santa Fe. The 1600s saw the French and English join the Spanish in founding new cities, particularly along the Atlantic seaboard. New York...
By founding, what he means is taking Native American land and then claiming to have found it.
Boston, Charleston, and Philadelphia were all founded in this period. By the time the U.S. declared its independence, cities had popped up all over the East Coast and Southwest. Some of the larger cities, like Boston, were starting to look quite urban, while others closer to the Appalachian frontier were little more than forced to keep out the understandably unwelcoming native tribes.
Oh.
The founding of the United States didn't do much to create an urban nation. The Land Ordinance of 1785, which begins the gridding of the American West, was designed to create a nation of farmers. Its author, Thomas Jefferson, hated cities. To be fair, at this point, the U.S. population was 90...
So it's Thomas Jefferson's fault for the suburban sprawl. Is that what you're telling me? God damn you, Thomas Jefferson. You and your slave-having ways.
This rural emphasis was unfortunate because shortly after the Founding Fathers signed the Constitution, which doesn't even mention cities, something big started happening. In the beginning of the 19th century...
Reminds you of an argument with your chud cousin who was like, they weren't even using it. I don't know how many times I've heard that ridiculous argument. It usually comes from, like, libertarians and such, or like libertarian adjacent sort of ideologies. They're like, they weren't adequately tilling and or what do you call it, stewarding the land. Not enough corn plants, okay, pal? Underutilized, therefore it's ours. Excuse me, please play. There we go.
Technological innovations such as the steam engine and power loom started transforming the global economy. Work that had been done by artisans in villages was now done in factories by unskilled labor. New firms and factories would locate in cities to find enough workers, and workers moved to cities to expand their options for work. Cities started to grow fast. People were moving to cities faster than housing could be built, and many of the migrants couldn't afford good housing anyway. Workers also had to live within walking distance of their factory, as no practical mass transit existed yet. Overcrowding became a serious problem. Sanitation was terrible. Human waste was typically disposed of in on-site septic tanks or cesspools. Cities smelled terrible. Disease was a constant threat. The smoke coming off the factories added to the noxious environment. It really is important to understand that the city of the mid-1800s was not a nice place to be. For many people, it was their first experience with urban living, and it was profoundly negative. Industrial cities needed reform. Disease was literally a life and death situation, so that came first. New gravity-based self-cleansing sewer systems came onto the scene in the 1840s. The implementation of a comprehensive sewer system designed to clear away waste required a citywide sanitary survey to understand the topography of the city, as well as a mapping of the cesspools, outhouses, and sources of waste. These surveys are some of the earliest acts of planning in U.S. cities, and by 1907, every major U.S. city had a sewer system. Sewers provided fresh air, and so too did some of the first comprehensive urban park systems. Some of the most notable...
Yep, we were actually kind of heading in a good direction for a little while. Like, once cities were established and people started doing these sorts of planning things, we were actually doing good. And then the car. And then the car was created, and we decided we need to plan everything around that. And by we, I mean mostly a cabal of people who are in the pockets of what's it called? What's his name? Ford, Henry Ford. Because yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he was heavily involved in lobbying for laws and other things that essentially made cars more important than people on streets and things of that nature. So many emotes being used on Twitch right now. It's wild. It's like a festival for my eyes. Well, I guess all festivals are. Well, depends. Okay. 3 Michelin stars. Seriously, I almost... that one I almost forget about all the time. But yeah, that was created by the car industry. That's how we judge our food, based upon cars. Weird world we live in. All right, we were looking at this a little bit yesterday. Just wanted to catch the back half of this PBS NewsHour from a day ago. How extreme heat is damaging American transportation infrastructure. Hold on, I need to set this up. Go to the second half, please. Thank you.
Going to have to find ways to redesign and rebuild or develop new materials so that we can continue to operate our planes, trains, and automobiles the way we're used to.
There's money in the infrastructure bill for infrastructure. Is any of that going to help make this infrastructure more resilient or perhaps design new plans?
Absolutely. The bipartisan infrastructure law is a huge influx of money and resources to be upgrading and improving our transportation infrastructure. That's really important because we've long neglected the maintenance that our infrastructure requires. And so there's a real backlog in our country, and there's a lot of upgrading that needs to happen. And so as companies, states, and communities are updating their infrastructure with this influx of money from the bipartisan infrastructure law, the hope is that they'll be also taking account climate change so that the infrastructure that we're investing in now is durable for decades into the future.
Are there certain areas or certain...
It should be way more than a hope. It should be a guarantee that they should in fact, if they aren't taking climate change into effect while updating our infrastructure, then it is one of the most idiotic decisions of all time, right? I mean, it should be a given that that is a part of the sort of calculus involved in all of this, right? If we're not, then we're just wasting money.
That are disproportionately affected by the effects of this extreme weather?
Absolutely. So most types of extreme weather hit communities that have long been disadvantaged by racism, discrimination, toxic pollution. Extreme heat is affecting people who live in urban areas without a lot of shade trees that often were the more affordable and more accessible areas for people of color to obtain mortgages in. but these areas tend to be hotter. And so people are waiting for buses at bus shelters where there's no shade, for example. When we look at coastal infrastructure, recent analysis by my team found that there are over 1,600 pieces of infrastructure in our country that are at risk from sea level rise, and that more than half of that infrastructure is in communities that are considered disadvantaged because of racism and pollution.
You talked about
Yeah, no way. Shocking that America is deciding to neglect the infrastructure that affects the poorest in American society. Can't think of any recent examples. Oh wait, Katrina. So I'm sure nothing like that will happen again, and by sure, I mean the exact opposite of that. Or I mean by never. I mean, definitely will happen, and really need to get on dealing with that shit. And it's not just our coastal infrastructure. We've talked about how there's like 70,000 like dams or something like that that need some amount of work to be done on them. We're in a bad situation, and we've been ignoring infrastructure for a long time. And now the climate change is coming roaring in our direction. It's something that we can't ignore, and that due to our ignoring it over time, we are in a much more vulnerable position than we might have been, and or could have somehow gotten out of by addressing this stuff when we first heard about it, like 50 or so years ago. But is 50 years long enough to do anything? I mean, come on. Well, that's right. We built all the highways in the United States in a shorter period of time. Take it back. Take it back. All right, let's go on. Let's go on to this. I just wanted to remind everybody of this data. We looked at this a number of months ago, but this is incredibly important stuff to remember. Some DW News, according to them, new climate data shows global temperatures are continuing to rise sharply. Honestly, the thumbnail for this video is just a picture of the Earth and the words "beginning of instability of climate systems?" ? It's just a frightening thumbnail. Okay.
1.5 degrees global warming
in the next 5 years.
The accelerating climate crisis has really been hitting the headlines lately. But wait, 1.5 degrees by 2027? Recently this made the news.
For the first time ever,
global warming has exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius
for an entire year.
It was actually anticipated that this important threshold would only be reached in the next few years or the next decade, but now scientists recently published data showing that we just passed this benchmark. So let's actually clarify what's happening here. Have we already exceeded the key 1.5 degree limit agreed in the Paris Climate Accord for good? And why has this red line already been crossed?
There is this tendency towards higher temperature, and this is largely driven by changes in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, so the CO2 and water vapor and methane and so on. And this has been the main driver for this constant warming. But superimposed to this warming, there are oscillations, there are fluctuations.
One of those fluctuations is exceptionally high solar activity. The other is a warm weather phenomenon called El Niño. Translated from Spanish, El Niño means the child or the boy.
I forgot how DW did this one. Oh my god. They want to blame solar fluctuations and El Niño. Come on, DW. Be better. We all know what it is. We all fucking know what it is. It's human activity. It's our insistence on blasting carbon dioxide and other sorts of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere rather than doing the smart things. And the sort of horrifying feedback loop of our decisions and the environment's reactions to those decisions appears to be snowballing to some degree. Now, of course, we're looking at a very large scale, but really does feel that way. Okay. Cows, absolutely. Cows are a huge portion of our methane contributions, if you will, to the environment. We have looked at different ways of reducing that. First one would be to stop or to dramatically reduce the cow populations, but the second one is actually not that, and it is in fact very interesting discovery that was found in the last, I think, year, that a certain kind of algae can be used to cut down on the methane gases released by them. It's actually the burps that cause methane, not farts, but farts are funnier. But I get what you're saying. Yes, you are right about that. But let's be real, farts are just more funny. Okay. Although I do appreciate the scientific accuracy. Let's go on to this. Global news from a day ago. Out of control wildfires nears Labrador City. Thousands evacuated.
Thousands of Labrador City residents ordered to evacuate Friday evening.
Like, people here in town started to panic. Gas stations filled up, and up at the grocery stores and stuff, people were up trying to get some stuff.
Hot, dry temperatures and winds gusting up to 30 kilometers an hour. A breeding ground for wildfires.
From what was a 600 hectare, fairly controlled fire to an over 10,000 hectare fire moving.
Now, just to remind everybody, because we are constantly hearing these sorts of units like acres and hectares, just always remember that hectares are, I believe, wait, let me get that right. I think it's 2.4, it's like 2.5 times as large as an acre, right? Hectare, acre, I just want to make sure. Yeah, it's basically 2.5 times. So when they say 10,000 hectares, that means 25,000 acres.
1 kilometers in just 4 hours.
Residents were told to head east to Happy Valley Goose Bay.
The evacuation was very ill prepared, let's put it that way. It was taking people 3.5 hours to get to the highway to get out of town.
Premier Fury says winds have died down and the fire currently stands 6 kilometers northwest of the city. Officials still reminding residents to stay away.
You can't come back. You can't stress the importance of this is an active fire. It's not gone. There's blue skies and clear skies, and people can assume it's good. It was the same thing yesterday, blue skies and clear skies, and quite quickly it turned.
Crews are working the eastern front of the fire with help from Quebec water bombers.
We're hopeful and confident that other provinces will come to our aid, but again, it's a good partnership already forming with Quebec.
Earlier this year, Saskatchewan sent air tankers to Newfoundland. But with hot temperatures raging across most of the country, almost all provinces have fires of their own to tend to.
But as things have escalated, we will be notifying them that we would like to return those crews to Saskatchewan so that they can be put back to work here.
In northern Alberta, wildfires have forced.
So yeah, even though this fire is absolutely massive, due to the number of fires that have been happening and have been getting fought in Canada, they are seemingly slightly under-resourced at this time. Seems like they are at least trying their very fucking best here, but oh god, that is huge fucking fire. 25,000 fucking acres from one fire. That is massive. Okay, let's go to Oregon, because the governor there has declared a state of emergency amid fire danger.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for KT News at 6. I'm Deborah Knapp.
And I'm Barry Mangold. We begin tonight with wildfires burning around the state. Right now, there are at least 9 large fires burning across Oregon. The Larch Creek fire is in the Gorge. Juniper and Falls fires are burning in central Oregon. The Salt Creek fire burning in southern Oregon, as well as in eastern Oregon. We have the...
It looks like half of Oregon is on fucking fire right now.
For Pine, Bonita, Cow Valley, River, and Huntington Aid fires. Experts say conditions this weekend could be working against crews battling those fires.
So we want to take a closer look at a few of the larger fires burning in Oregon. The Larch Creek fire is still being fueled by winds and has grown by more than 3,000 acres since yesterday. It's now burned more than 13,000 acres and 0% contained. Evacuation orders are still in place. 2 evacuation shelters are available. A Red Cross at South Wasco County High School and another one at Y East Middle School. Investigators do say that this was human caused.
This is wild. No pun intended. The number of wildfires that we have seen so far this year, and it's only just begun, right? To quote that song, but it really truly is. It's going to go on for another like 2.5 months. And does seem like it's only going to get worse, considering August is the hottest month of the year. Let's go to Colorado now. At least 4 homes destroyed, but appears that this wildfire was contained.
Another brush fire breaking out in Byers. That's about an hour east of Denver, and it's coming as Colorado heats up once again. We have team coverage for you tonight. We want to get to meteorologist Stacey Donaldson in just a moment with more on the forecast. But first, let's get to Denver 7 investigative reporter Natalie Chuck. She has been in Byers all afternoon. And Natalie, you just got an update from fire officials.
Hey there, Jacqueline. Yeah, that's right. The Arapahoe County Sheriff Tyler Brown just met us here at Byers High School. We're about 2 miles away from where that fire was burning, and the good news he shared with us is that fire is now 100% contained. So something that a lot of the neighbors here, I'm sure, are relieved to be hearing. Now, we do know that fire broke out around 10 o'clock this morning, and that at least 4 homes and 3 outbuildings have been destroyed. There could be more.
Okay, yeah, so thankfully it's been contained, but did in fact do some amount of damage to property in the area. The fact is, we haven't seen, aside from I think like in, where is it, New Mexico, we haven't seen massive amounts of property damage, people's homes being burnt down. I mean, we've certainly seen some. But only a couple of fires this year have been, at least that we've talked about, maybe not all right? 'Cause there's plenty of stuff I miss. But thankfully, fire crews have been doing an incredible job of keeping people and their homes from being threatened or destroyed. We've certainly seen plenty of property destruction, just not, I just don't think we're even close to what we're going to wind up seeing. And that's very pessimistic. Maybe I shouldn't talk like that, but all the evidence sort of points in that direction. All right, let's talk about how firefighting works. It is Sunday fun day after all. just trying to have some non-sad videos to watch. Let's go to this.
This video was made possible by Squarespace. Build your website for 10% off at squarespace.com/Wendover. It's 4 a.m. on a mid-August morning in the Northern California wilderness. During a brief overnight storm, lightning strikes the top of a hill, ignites some dry underbrush, and starts a wildfire. It isn't until 6 a.m. as the sun rises that someone notices the fire, a hiker camping on an overlooking hill. As soon as the hiker's 911 call is received by the Emergency Dispatch Center, they contact CAL FIRE, the agency responsible for wildfire protection and management in California. By 6:30, they call the Redding, California-based Smoke Jumpers. They are one of the most elite firefighting squads in the United States. There are only 400 smoke jumpers in the US, and 40 of those are based here in Redding, California. They're essentially the rapid response team for wildfires. Within 15 minutes of receiving the call,
The fact that there's only 400 of them in the entire United States does give me concern, right? I feel like we should have more than that.
jumpers are in their plane and taking off. It takes just 20 minutes to fly the 50 miles to the fire site, where they find a suitable tree-free landing spot, jump, deploy their parachutes, and land. The plane then circles back to parachute down boxes of equipment. Smoke jumpers carry with them enough supplies to last 72 hours completely self-supported: food, water, shelter, safety equipment, and firefighting tools. They follow the ridgeline and make their way to the fire. Now, this is a small team, and they need to decide how to prioritize what they do. With the fire already having grown to 15 acres, the team knows they're unlikely to stop it on their own. Backups are already on the way, so their priority is to slow it down as much as possible. There are 4 major factors that affect how fast a fire moves: how much fuel there is, how wet the fuel is, the wind direction, and the slope. The 2 factors that the team can immediately gauge that affect where the fire will move fastest are the wind direction and slope. In this case, the wind is coming from the north, and they know that to the southwest is an upward slope. Fire moves faster uphill than it does downhill since the fire burns upwards, so these smoke jumpers know that this is likely the fire's fastest moving front.
Now that's something that I didn't know before watching this video, and should have somehow, I guess, I feel like it's like, once he said it, it makes so much sense and seems so obvious, but it just didn't click in my head. But it makes perfect sense, because fire burns up, right? Heat dissipates upwards, and it just you know, it seemed counterintuitive until he said it out loud, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, remember that fires travel uphill faster than they do downhill.
While trees do burn, the primary source of fuel that a wildfire uses to move is the dry brush and dead wood on the forest floor, so the biggest technique used to stop forest fires is to create what's called a fire line. These are essentially a gap where they remove all fuel, plants both dead and alive, so that there's nothing for the fire to continue burning. The smoke jumpers use a mix of chainsaws and other hand tools to do this work, but sometimes fire lines are pre-built. In this case, there's a road at the top of the uphill section, which will help slow or stop the fire so they can direct their efforts elsewhere. They use the road as their anchor point. A cleared section.
Yeah, although we have seen that that strategy not always work, due to at least one of the effects that he mentioned are huge factors, that being the wind. If it is too windy and it is blowing in the direction of such a barrier, the embers, the fire can jump things like roads, even rivers. Okay. We need to do the raking. Oh, that's in a Trump voice. We need to do the raking. Seriously though, I mean, raking is a tiny portion of all of this. But it's important to some degree. Won't completely knock that, but certainly we could be preventing a lot of these. Multiple different ways. Is that what he said during his meeting with Newsom? We need to do more raking? It's brilliant. We could try and cool the climate. I don't know. We could do that. That seems like a good idea to me. But then, you know, there's also the fact that most fires are human-caused. And so we all need to also consider how or when we might be, in fact, endangering the environment. July 4th comes to mind, as we saw dozens of fires sprout up across the country that seemed to be, at least believed to be linked to illegal fireworks, or even legal fireworks for that matter. Ah, God. Okay. Now, let's do this. Let's have a little fun. ABC News from 18 hours ago. Tube to Work Day offers cool commute in Colorado. Another Sunday Funday story. Here we go.
To get ready to trade the suit for a swimsuit because Boulder, Colorado is preparing for what's known as the world's greatest traffic jam. For the 17th year in a row, more than 1,000 commuters will ride to work in an inner tube down Boulder Creek. Our Will Gans is there with the latest on Tube to Work Day.
This morning, it's the coolest commute in the country. Say goodbye to road rage and hello to River Rapids.
We're gonna need a bigger tube.
It's Tube to Work Day in Boulder, Colorado.
It is my favorite day of the year, to be honest. We make sure we don't take vacation over Tube to Work Day.
For one day, only hundreds of commuters are swapping the interstate for inner tube. This free-floating tradition began in 2008.
We both worked in East Boulder and wanted to see if we could get to our offices without using any fossil fuels.
And now, more than
1,000 computers in her. I think she misspoke. I think she meant 1,000 commuters in inner tubes.
Our offices without using any fossil fuels.
And now, more than 500 Boulder business people are tubing too.
I get out sopping wet at my work, find somewhere to change, and then go on with my day.
The event is BYOT. Some commuters riding the rapids on inflatable flamingos and phoenixes. And after a test drive of our own, we can confirm this isn't just some lazy river.
Totally tubular!
And the Tube to Work Day outfits are just as splashy as the commute itself.
People with suits and laptops. We have people in unicorn gear. We're dancing and playing and jumping in the creek together. And it's just a wonderful time.
Over the years, we've had mermaids out there with squirt guns. They will be back this year.
As silly as Tube to Work Day might seem, the event encompasses all that Boulder has to offer. And a portion of the proceeds benefit a local charity.
Bridge House is actively getting people out of homelessness into employment and housing.
A rock-solid way for Boulder, Colorado to claim the title of coolest commute ever.
All right, Diane, now I want you to stay with me because there's a rapid up here, and I'm bringing you along for the ride. How am I going to steer? Ping pong paddles. That's the expert tip that I was given by some veteran.
Oh my god. Hopefully they don't have magnets because water breaks them. Wait, who said that? Because I know that that's not true. Isn't that a quote from somebody? We have 51 likes. That's incredible. How's that possible? That's too many. Hold on.
Here in Boulder. Now let's also talk about temperatures here. Denver is getting ready to experience possible record highs this weekend in the triple digits. The water, though, is a lovely 59 degrees. What a way to stay cool for the summer. I might be going down this backwards. Here we go, Diane. Oh, wow. 59 degrees.
Okay. I figured we'd have a little bit of fun. Alright, I've added your support character, but I don't know if we'll be seeing her. Depends on whether or not my stream software wants to agree with working today. Either way, that genuinely looked fun. Seems much better than driving to work. Okay. Let's go here to Global News from 3 days ago, where they discuss some of the dangers of floating on tubes in the ocean.
Japanese Coast Guard video shows a member of the special rescue team being lowered to a tanker off the coast to recover a Chinese woman seen wrapped in a blue blanket after she had drifted away in an inflatable swimming ring. She disappeared Monday from a beach in Shimoda, which is 200 kilometers from Tokyo, and about 36 hours later was spotted by a cargo ship alive after floating more than 80 kilometers.
Jesus Christ.
The rescue is a reminder to Canadians flocking to beaches this summer.
Leave the inflatable.
Could you imagine being on an inflatable tube for 36 hours? Jeez. That's insane. Oh, you know what? I missed a huge opportunity. Oh my god. I badly want to watch the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think some people may know what I'm talking about, but like where Frank and Mac get lost at sea.
Home, enjoy those at your pool.
Parks Canada staff on Prince Edward Island have rescued 2 people on inflatables so far this season.
Since 2019, we've seen a really big increase in the amount of rescues that we are getting with inflatables.
Exactly, BCAT. Rum ham! Rum ham.
Over half.
In 2019, 2 5-year-old Nova Scotia girls drifted into the Northumberland Strait on floating toys, rescued 50 minutes later unharmed. And in North Carolina, cameras captured the moment a boy from Ohio was reunited with his parents after his inflatable unicorn took him far from shore.
You can't steer them. You're on top of them, usually for the most part. And so you're susceptible to whatever the current is doing.
What else happens nowadays is kids on the floatables and parents on their phones is a big problem. And certainly I don't think that Facebook message or that text message is worth losing your kid over.
Recovery also puts lifeguards at risk and takes up rescue resources.
Sometimes we have to call the fire
Oh my
department.
God.
Sometimes Coast Guard has to come.
Japan's Coast Guard says the woman they recovered suffered only slight dehydration and is lucky to be alive. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Yeah, no kidding. Make sure to get that tweet in before your child enters the water. Seriously, though, that is kind of the society that we live in, I feel like. You know what? This is happening. This is happening right now. We already watched... What did we watch earlier? Oh yeah, we watched Key and Peele. I'm almost definitely getting some sort of form of copyright claim on this video for that, so we're doing this. We're fucking doing this.
Yo, Mac! You see that sign there that says toxic spill?
Yeah.
What's that?
Disregard that, Frank. It's a bunch of liberal bullshit.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Right, this is a nice spot.
Yeah. Oh! What's that? You were supposed to get booze.
Oh, this is ham, soaked in rum. It is loaded with booze.
God damn it, Frank. Eating your drinks? That is genius.
I'm not sharing my ham with no dogs. I got a great idea. Warm sun, cool ocean breezes, getting rip shit on ham.
Might you say we're getting hammered?
Nice one.
Frank, we are no longer in relaxing mode. We are now in survival mode.
Will you stop being so dramatic? Wait a minute. Where's the rum ham? Where's the rum? Rum ham!
No! Frank, stay in the boat! Frank,
Rum
stay in the
ham!
boat!
Oh, rum ham! I'm sorry, rum ham!
Okay. Oh, God. It was just the perfect moment for that video. There was never going to be a better time. There truly was never going to be a better time. I literally can't think of a better time. Okay. Sunday FUNDAY after all. Sunday FUNDAY, folks. Alright. Back to the real news. Alright. Hold on. What do we got left? Alright, we got a few more environmental related videos here. Let's go to this. This is some of the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. This is from a day ago. Flooding in Plainfield, Vermont destroys bridge and apartments. You might be asking me, StreamLord, how is it possible that Vermont was damaged by Hurricane Beryl? Your guess is as good as mine, but it definitely
Everybody calls it
did
the Heartbreak
happen.
Hotel. I'm not entirely sure why it's called that. It is a heartbreak now, truly. I mean, I got a text from Margie that was just like, the water is going through my house, the river is going through my house. And then and then I got a text maybe half an hour after everything had happened where she was like, I'm okay, I'm on high ground. And then she said in text, the houses, the apartments are gone, 5 apartments completely gone. I think 6 cats are missing still.
Well, it's a kind of a staple of the community. There's eight apartments in there, or there was. My mom has lived there for quite some time. It was a T, and the longer end section is 3 miles down the river. I feel fortunate that my mom was able to get out of there. Every person that lives there made it out of there. They lost a lot of the pets, but the people got out of there.
Then took the bridge out. The bridge is gone. I guess no dam.
Sorry, hold on. Look at the amount of debris that was left behind. Like the silt, the sediment, and whatnot. You don't think of just how much is in the water. And then it just leaves behind all of this. Although, granted, it's not all in the water. It's stuff that's getting picked up as it goes through the land. But I assume this was a normal-looking street until Hurricane Beryl came. And now it's just covered in huge piles of mud. And it's unfortunate that sounds like at least 8 people lost their homes in this apartments, but still, I'm sure many of their, or all of their belongings most likely were in those places, along with 6 cats apparently, which is just super unfortunate. Hopefully those cats are alive and find their way back home. No. No more beachfront property jokes. It's too fucked. I can't do it. It's a real estate opportunity. Alright, that's the last one. Alright, let's go to Canada, where a youth has been swept away by floodwater. In, what was this, New Brunswick? No, NS, what is that? Oh, shit. Oh, my Canadian just broke.
It happened fast. A youth swept under rushing floodwaters. This firefighter was first on scene.
It was fast moving, very fast moving.
The search beginning within minutes, with nearly 100 millimeters of rain falling.
They were searching quite a large area in difficult conditions, tiring conditions, and darkness.
4 friends were playing in this park in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley when one of them disappeared. It was more than 3 hours before the body was found.
This is a devastating day for our province.
Nova Scotia's premier says dozens of roads were closed at the height of the storm Thursday night. In this fishing village, the damage is severe.
I was quite shocked.
Not gonna lie, I think everybody here should be concerned. Like, genuinely concerned that people 1,000 miles away from the initial landfall of a hurricane are being affected like this, right? Where people are literally being swept away and killed by that, right? I mean, this is only the first actual hurricane of this season, right? We've already been told by the NOAA It's going to be an incredibly active hurricane season, right? This made landfall in Texas as a Category 1, right? But it somehow managed to power its way all the way to Canada and cause this level of destruction. It is certainly concerning to me. Perhaps I'm...
And a very sad event for the community as well.
The water tore through bridges and roadways in the western part of the province.
They just rebuilt it with huge rocks, right? And they're rolling around like dice.
As people assess the damage and begin the cleanup, they're also dealing with mental stress. Residents of some of these same communities are now reliving the deadly flash flooding they experienced this time last year.
We're just beyond exhausted. It's actually just numbing. Like, I don't even know how to feel anything right now.
Last year's flooding led to the deaths of 4 people and left homes devastated. This year, some tried to protect their homes. This restaurant is trying to help those who don't have one.
A lot of people's
Okay. Did it go up through the Midwest? It did. Yes, it did. It did go through the Midwest. Made it through the Midwest very quickly. And then sort of... I think it hit the places around the Canada-U.S. border the hardest, it would seem. For whatever reason, I don't know. Perhaps because there's more water to be pulled up into the storm around there. There's a ton of lakes, St. Lawrence River, stuff like that. If we only knew what caused this weather. Always with the jokes. Your brother was telling you that sand from Sahara storms come across the ocean and somehow ameliorate hurricane conditions in the Gulf? I've never heard of that. Never heard of that one before. Yeah, it definitely picked up some juice around the Great Lakes. I mean, Buffalo. We saw Buffalo get hit by tornadoes. Which is not a place that historically gets hit tornadoes. But the hurricane decided otherwise. Okay. Let's look at this. As flash flooding closed the roads and stranded cars in Rockford, Illinois. This is from 13 hours ago. Eyewitness News, WTVO, WQRF. Why do they have two different...
Busy night for Rockford's first responders. This is video from earlier in the night when major flooding had been reported on Charles and 20th, Charles and 9th, East State and 4th Avenue. Our own Jordan Wolf was out there and said most of the water has receded, thankfully. Flash flood warnings had been in place for Boone County, McHenry, DeKalb County. According to an app that tracks calls to the city's fire department, where dozens of calls for water rescues overnight were heard over the scanner, reports of people waiting for rescuers on top of the hoods and roofs of their cars while those vehicles were submerged in several feet of water. There's no word on any injuries related to the storm. We'll continue to follow developments throughout the morning.
Okie dokie. This is our last environmental story of the evening. And in fact, it's not even a sad one. Look at that, chat. How lucky are we? Let's go to this. ABC News from 16 hours ago. Massive blue whale seen off the coast of Massachusetts in rare double sighting. Blue whales are the largest animals on Earth. They live in the North Atlantic and North Pacific and grow up to 90 feet and weigh over 100,000 pounds.
We're trying to figure it out. Ladies and gentlemen,
This is truly beautiful.
you're getting a look at a blue whale.
Look at how close it is.
Oh my god, look at him underwater. He's glowing.
Oh my gosh.
It's huge.
Oh, right here.
Oh my god. Oh my god, look at the size of it. Holy shit. Jesus. Cape Ann Whale Watch, a local tour group, said that the blue whale sightings are incredibly rare in the region. They believe that there hasn't been a known sighting in 20 years. School buses are made tiny by blue whales. They absolutely are. Blue whales are huge, 90 feet and 100,000 pounds.
What I pick up all the time is the
down
frustration of voices
Settle,
not heard.
Jeremy.
The frustration.
Settle. Not ready for you. Not ready at all. Okay, I personally need a very quick space intermission. This one's going to be real short, so don't get too comfortable over there, folks, but just going to play a quick tune in the background. Let's see. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps out. If you'd like to help out even more while also gaining access to some super sweet space benefits, well, here's an idea. You could become a member on Patreon for just a few American dollars a month. Alright, chat, I'll be right back.
Right Honourable and learned gentleman had to present on behalf of the official Labour Party. It forced me to be the first member of this House to set out the case why I believe, and I hope I went with the last speaker, why I believe that it's in the national interest for the United Kingdom to be a member of the European Union, why I believe we have benefited from that position for the last 45 years, and most importantly, why I believe future generations will benefit if we actually succeed in remaining a member of the European Union. It's a case that hardly received any national publicity during the extraordinary referendum campaign, but it does actually go to the heart of the historic decision that the House is being asked to make now. It so happens that my political career entirely coincides with British involvement with the European Union. I started over 50 years ago supporting Harold Macmillan's application to join. I helped get the majority cross-party vote for the European Communities Act before we did join in 1973, and it looks like my last...
One sub away from 200. Wow. Making some real progress.
With any regret, we made very wise decisions. I
think Twitch users just got ad braked. Alright.
When after Suez we had discovered that we had no role in the world we were clear about once we'd lost our empire, and that our economy was becoming a laughing stock because we were falling behind the countries on the continent that had been devastated in the war but appeared to have a better way of proceeding than we did. And I believe that our membership of the European Union restored to us our national self-confidence, gave us politically a role in the world as a leading member of the Union, which made us more valuable to our allies, like the United States, and made our rivals, like the Russians, to take us more seriously because of our role of leadership in the European Union, and it helped to reinforce our...
Does there be many watching on Twitch? That's a good question. You know, it changes drastically midstream. You know, but yeah, not a lot. Not gonna lie. Not nearly as many as we have on YouTube. Which is what partly makes me not being monetized on YouTube ever never-endingly frustrating to me. I do see Omega Star in chat. dancing like a crazy fool. I like that. I like that raver corn emoji. It's fun. Okay, on to the global news. Calling all space fams. The final portion of this stream is coming at you. As an aside, you just broke 100 subs on your channel. That's awesome. At DJ Karma D. Very fancy. Alright, I figured we would start off our global news across the pond in England. The UK. This is Novara Media from 2 days ago, where they had on Jeremy Corbyn to discuss at length the United Kingdom's current political climate, as well as the most recent election. Hold on, let me line this up to where I wanted to talk about this.
Institution.
Going back to 2017,
yep,
which is this anomaly that nobody in journalism or politics really wants to talk about right now.
Well, thank God I'm here today without Nigel Farage.
The vote share of the two major parties, I think, was about 83%. In this election, it's gone below 60%. Now, what I find really interesting is obviously the media pick a narrative and then they all say this thing. And the narrative about 2017 is that Theresa May was useless and Jeremy Corbyn was deeply unpopular. And yet, the Tory and Labour share of the vote, I don't think has been higher for decades. And then, of course, in this election, we're told that Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, they're
grown-ups,
effective grown-ups precisely. And the combined vote share of those two parties has gone below 60%. What changes between 2017 and 2024?
Good question. At 17 election, we started with 24% in the polls, roughly where the Tories started in this election. And I remember the utter consternation in my office when the election was announced. They all sort of stared like this. I said, what's the matter? They said, well, haven't you heard the news? I said, of course I've heard the news. I've been watching it. And there's an election coming. I said, yeah, I know there is. What are we going to do? Oh, God, I said, listen, guys, you've had your shock moment. In the office, let's have a meeting now. Pull everybody together. Everybody made them all sit around a big table. All of them, everybody. I said, right, now quiet, everybody. Now all of you look out the window. So, has he lost it? And we're about to start. Has he completely lost it? So, so they all looked out the window. And I said, okay, what do you see? I said, well.
Hey, did we just cross 200? Well, thank you, everybody, for helping contribute. Whoever just subscribed,
people,
welcome
cars,
officially to the Galactic
walking around,
Nation.
buses, river. I said, okay, we're going into this campaign. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about us. It's about everybody out there. And as of now, we're full on campaigning everywhere around the country. Don't be reading opinion polls. Go out there and mobilize and excite.
Let's hold off on the congratulations and celebrations. 200 is not 500. It's good. It's a milestone, but it's not the milestone we need to get through. I mean, technically we'd have to get through 200 to get to 500, but I want to hold on to my celebrating for 500 because, that's the true goal at this time. Although I really do appreciate everybody and your congratulations.
And I said, Okay, right. And they said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to Birmingham for the first meeting this afternoon. And I went and did it. And so we just went out there with utter determination that we would take the campaign to every spot in the country. And I did 100 events in that election campaign. And every one of them got bigger than the last one. Every single one did. And every time I got back to our esteemed party head office in the now demolished South Side, how sad, and there'd be analyses offered to me by some very smart people who said, oh, Jeremy, it's terrible. You've got to have a defensive.
I feel like this conversation around subs is totally taking away from me focusing on this. But yeah, surprise party is canceled. I am sorry, folks. But I am excited internally right now. And you all can celebrate the 200. That's fine. But I'm just trying to keep my own sort of excitement bottled for the 500. It is exciting, though. We have been moving, I will say this, and hopefully this doesn't jinx us, so knock on wood here, but the channel has been gaining subscribers at a much faster pace recently that I am a huge fan of. We are at 60 likes now. Oh my. You may be owed 2 support characters next stream. I will at least roll this. You currently have an Astrid in the background, and that is a Buddy Jesus on a Raptor. So yeah, currently on deck you have Astrid and Buddy Jesus riding that Raptor with a pride flag, of course. Okay, but you can't see them because my stream software hates not just me, but really seems to hate all of you, because really I blame Streamlabs from keeping your emotional support characters away from you. We'll determine later on what exactly punishment Streamlabs deserves for this very rude behavior.
How rude.
Strategy, we're going to be thumped, we're going to lose, you're not going to get anywhere. I said, look, you're wrong. Come out on the road with me. He said, well, you're just seeing your friends. I said, well, maybe I am, but there's an awful lot of them. And so we built that buzz of the campaign and gave people that sense of hope, and that's what gave us the result. But it had every effect has an equal and opposite effect, and that had the effect of corralling the Tory vote back to the Tory party. Okay, the Tory proportion did go down, but the role of Farage and UKIP to basically support the Tories meant that you had this concentration of the vote almost of 1950s levels. 1951 general election, I think 90% of the population voted either Tory or Labour. It was the highest ever. Mm-hmm. We were almost back to those levels. And since then, obviously, there's been this diffusion of the vote of both.
Yeah, I think the criticism, if you're not quite picking up on what Jeremy Corbyn's putting down here, is that the vote was very much bifurcated, right? Rather than other parties picking up a lot of the vote, in this election, it was either Tory or Labour that got, in a very historic level, seemingly. What did you say, 1951? That's like 75 years ago. Since that happened, to that degree.
Parties, but the biggest diffusion has been for the Tories. Now, I think the interesting political study over the next few months and years is going to be the role of Farage and this now small far-right group in Parliament that does have a very large vote base. We've got to win that vote base back, and that's where the lessons of the French left, which in a time of crisis came back together. Because remember that the last presidential election was thrown by the left because of the refusal of the left parties and the Communist Party to get together on the first ballot. Had they got together on the first ballot, possibly, not sure, possibly Mélenchon would have got through to the last round. Whether he'd have won it or not, I don't know, but it would have been a choice between Macron and Mélenchon, not between Macron and the far right.
It's a good point.
Now, this time, the left were panicked and spooked by the first round, and so they did that sort of instant agreement, which took all of a day and a half to put together and manage.
Yeah, that happened really fast, too. But I think that's an important point to kind of go back on and talk about. But like the French leftist parties had not yet created the new Popular Front, which we've been talking about recently, as they've won the most votes in the French election. They could have, if they had gotten together before the first round of voting, which happened, I guess, 3 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago? No, 3 weeks. They very well, the leader of the Communist Party, Mélenchon, could very well have been France's potentially new prime minister, right?
To become the largest party in the National Assembly, which is a huge step forward. But I'd just be cautious about what's happened in France. To quote Shakespeare, they've scotched the snake, they haven't killed it, of the far right. And so we've got to be aware that the rise of far right politics in Britain, the intolerance, the nastiness, the racism of it is serious and on the rise. And if this government starts conceding ground to those kind of arguments, it will get worse and worse and worse. You cannot concede ground on racism.
Do you think time will?
Time will tell. Obviously, I hope not. Obviously, I hope that they will stand up for the rights of people to seek asylum, to seek a place of safety, and stop the grotesque levels of exaggeration and look at the boat people coming from Calais as human beings. They've stopped the Rwanda plan. Good. £250 million pounds down the drain to Rwanda. I have no idea what Rwanda's going to do with that $250 million.
Yeah, we didn't even cover that, but yeah, he's bringing up something that I was aware of previously. But after Labour said they were no longer going to go with the Rwanda plan, Rwanda did say that they were keeping the money. Because the French left have balls, the U.S. left. You're not sure the corporate Dems don't, for sure. Well, it's an interesting way that you put that, actually, because it makes me gets me going over here. Because the fact is that the corporate Dems are, if anything, synonymous with Emmanuel Macron, right? Like, really, like if we were to sort of put up the policies of the Democrats against that of the Ensemble party of Emmanuel Macron, we would see that they have very similar sort of views, very sort of neoliberal, not really even leftist sort of opinions on most things. And unless you're talking about like some like cultural and or social things, right, regarding, say, racism, as Corbyn mentioned, or women's rights, LGBTQ stuff. But if you want to go talk about the economy, you want to talk about fossil fuels, you want to talk about many of these things that Democrats are all on board with, military expansionism, which is why I think in America we need to figure out how to get an actual third party with balls, like you're referring to, right? With an actual part to play in everything, and not just to be seen as this sort of fringe, this sort of unelectable left, if you will, right? We need to find a way to completely combat against that and actually get some sort of popular movement to actually embrace these sort of leftist ideologies, because we know, according to the polling in the United States, according to the numbers, a lot of the policies of the left are in fact embraced by the majority of the American people, which means we technically have a shot. We just need, an actual group, actual political party willing to go out there and get this shit done, right? Because France actually has that, right? Where they have a left that's actually sort of effectively, as we've seen in this most recent election, challenging the ideas of the sort of neoliberal side of their democracy, right? Meanwhile, the right is trying to prevent the future from happening. Fair play, Baba.
Is it going to pay it back or not? I mean,
apparently not.
Apparently not. Well, it's probably spent it on something else already anyway, so that's gone. But that does mean you've got to look at it. I mean, I've been to Calais quite a few times. Indeed, I was so moved by it, I wrote a poem about it. These are human beings that have come from countries that we were at war with. Don't we have a responsibility? Didn't we bomb Afghanistan? Didn't we bomb Iraq? Didn't we support the bombing of Syria? You know, wars have consequences, and these are the consequences.
So if I was a reform voter saying, look, let's try and find a middle ground, Jeremy, we'll give asylum to Syrians, Iraqis, Afghans, but why should we give asylum to, I mean, I'm half Iranian. Why should, and I don't think this, just to be clear for the cameras, why should we give asylum to Iranians, Turkish Kurds, Pakistanis, etc., etc., etc.? What would you say to them?
Because we, as a nation, willingly and proudly signed up to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. We, as a nation, proudly signed up for the 1951 Geneva Convention on the Rights of Asylum, because we, as a nation, support the principle that every human being deserves a place of safety. And we would want it for ourselves. We would want